I think the best way to start is why don't you give your background a little bit? Because, if I were interviewing like a degenerate trader, I would just kind of be like, okay, show me your P&L, right? But
Yeah.
you're not a degenerate. You have an actual background. So why don't you give that?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Jonah's a good friend for many years, and it's always fun to shoot the shit with you. So I've worked on Web One, was doing like SEO, SEM stuff, and helped take a company public in the late 2000s. And then spent a bulk of my career at Facebook and helped scale the advertising business. Was pretty early there on the sales team and just in general. And like about 5 years ago, I got the crypto bug, and have spent most of my time in crypto on consumer stuff. Obviously, a lot of the games specifically, because that's where a lot of my career was previously, and that's how you and I became friends. But have raised a lot of money in the venture space. In crypto specifically, but obviously a lot of the like consumer stuff is not taken off outside of financial. And so last year around this time, after having worked with a few really great founders and helping them either just try to scale their business or scale consumer in general, I decided like it was time for me to start my own thing. We have a really strong thesis in crypto, and we really do believe in crypto, especially as people are leaving AI. It's pretty sad to see, a lot of the like they say the transient people leave as soon as things get hard. And so last year around this time, we raised 5 million bucks from Coinbase, Blockchain Capital, Oros, Falcon X, some really great investors. And we were originally building structured products for Bitcoin, but obviously after 1010 and a lot of the on-chain stuff with Mythos and Fable, a lot of that stuff has gone away. And so we at the start of the year, right before we were ready to launch our Vault product, realized, hey, like we still have most of our money. What do we really want to build if we were to start all over and not be dependent on the market itself? The co-founding group and a lot of the people that work here at Button Labs are traders. I don't have as much time to trade, but trading is something that I really have enjoyed in my career and something I've spent a lot of time thinking about. We started to interview a bunch of really sophisticated traders. And so as we started to talk to a lot of sophisticated traders, what we realized was that they were utilizing AI in some way, shape, or form to execute or build strategies. But the experience today is very clunky. And a lot of what the LLMs give you is not very good, frankly. And there's a few reasons for that. One, the LLMs don't have access to real-time data. And if you're building strategies, specifically like quantitative strategies, you need that real-time data. Secondly, they don't have context, right? They have memory, but they don't have context of what influences you the way a Facebook or a Google would. And that's really important because for a trader, what might influence me is like a Citrini report, or anytime Citrini drops something, or what influences you is maybe your Twitter feed or your TikTok, some influencer that you follow. And so that's what we've set out to do, is build an app that basically connects to your brokerage, whether it's a interactive broker or crypto, whatever it is, understands your risk parameters, allows you to build thesis based off of the context of things like your Twitter feed or any other external data source that you want to put in there, like a Citrini report or a podcast, and then gives you a strategy on what to trade based on what you put in there. A couple things we don't believe, and it's really interesting to see, specifically since a lot of crypto folks are trying to build similar products. Everybody's shilling this bullshit concept that you're just gonna like come up with a thesis and the agent's going to make you a trade. One of the things that we know, and it's really sad to see a lot of companies go out there and promise this nonsense. It tells you that they actually don't use AI properly, because look, if you look at coding agents like a Claude or a Codex, they don't make bad engineers great engineers. They make bad engineers better engineers. They make great engineers more efficient. But great engineers aren't just putting out slop and automatically executing code. They have to go and review it because a lot of that stuff is not there yet. So we foundationally don't believe at this time that you're just gonna like have a thesis and some magic black box is gonna start making you money. It's not. In fact, I think there was a tweet earlier this week that said everybody loves talking about their trading terminal that they're building, and they love hyping it up. Nobody's actually making money on these things. In fact, most people using AI today are losing money. And so it kind of sucks as we're building this product to see so many companies try to tell you that, like, hey, you're just going to set it and forget it. That's just not the way it works, especially with the real time news cycles that we have. Like, our president could come out today, drop some random tweet, and all of a sudden the market's nuking. And so that's what we're building. We're really excited about it. We have a great team. We've got a former engineer that was building a similar product. We've got a front end engineer that was at Uber for a long time. Got another really great engineer, and our CTO. He's such a good friend of mine that actually pains me to say nice things about him. But you know, he's a 10x engineer, was an EM at LinkedIn, like in his early mid 20s, got a company acquired, went there, and then helped build the Rainbow iOS wallet and a bunch of other really great products there, and has been in crypto for some time. So we think that we have the focus and the honesty to build a product that gives traders the ability to be 1% better. And I think that's what's really important. If we can give people that 1%, it's going to unlock a significant profit margin for a growing market, frankly. So, anyways, I just rambled for a
No,
long
it's
time.
good. No, this is what we need because, like, at the end of the day, like, people are, if they do watch this, it's not for me. They're watching it to hear about you and what you're doing. One question, because I've been playing with it myself in the early access. As something like Fable 5 gets more expensive after, I think, the 12th, so that's in 3 or 4 days from now. How will pricing work for you, and like how you get a customer when it goes to API pricing? Because obviously you're not going to be building your own LLM. You're building a data ingestion tool, but the LLM that's like thinking through it is not going to be your own secret sauce, at least from my understanding. So
Yep.
how does cost change? Because if I'm a serious trader, because that's what your product is, that's your USP, right? I'm someone who would want my button system to be on 24/7 ideally, and then ping me to my phone. So like in my perfect
Yep.
world with your app is I hook up my Telegram directly to Button. I'm paying for the premium LLM to go with the data. And then
Yep.
if I'm at a bar with, one of my friends, I don't have to stay at home. I get a message from Button and it goes like, so and so has made this trade at this date.
Yep.
That requires it to be on, a significant amount of time. So how do you deal with the downstream costs that are coming from these LLMs who are also like, they're not making money, so they're going to try and front the bill to rappers like yourself.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, you know, one of the things that we're thinking about is based off of the one, we have a pretty good, we've spent a lot of time optimizing costs. We actually rolled out a release last week where we decreased our cost by 50%. There's a bunch of different things that we can do on the orchestration side, whether it's an automation that, you know, you get that automated thing. And so we spent a lot of time on cost reduction, and there's a lot of really great tools out there, frankly, that are helping for this, because this is not a problem that we are the only ones thinking about. Frankly, as you know, a lot of the enterprises are thinking about this stuff. And so the way that we think about this is, you know, we just want to help make people better. For a freemium model, we'll probably use like an open source tool under the hood. If you pay us like $20, you'll get a little bit of a better model, and you know, $100 you'll get like state of the art. And so, you know, we're thinking about costs both from an optimization standpoint, but also from an output standpoint and how we price the product. At the end of the day, you know, for us right now, it's really getting thousands of users utilizing the product and making them better. We'll continue to understand what those costs are and unit economics are, but we can, you know, the LTV of a trader is significantly higher, and over time, if we can build a product where people retain, we'll figure out ways that we can start to monetize them. Right now, our end goal is to get users and make them better, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I asked you this question because I've been thinking about, I think his last name's Karp, the Palantir
Yep.
founder and CEO. He went
Yep.
on CNBC, and that interview has been shared millions of times about the idea of the big enterprises are about to be in a civil war effectively with these large LLMs, because the ChatGPT or Claude, they want you to be a wrapper that they can steal information from. And then on the
Yep.
other side is that they're selling you tokens. And he made a good point. He said, if the tokens were that valuable, why wouldn't they just take a piece of your business and then offer you the tokens for free? And so
Yep.
I think about that and I go, well, that reminds me a lot of the free to play model for mobile
Yep.
gaming, right? Where you eat the shit in order to retain the user. Is there a world, because obviously it wouldn't be today because you're just starting, where
Yep.
if someone is, let's call them an amateur to novice trader, not an expert trader, you could
Mhm.
say, hey, you can either pay these fees, or when you're using us, you sign this contract and we get X% of whatever your positive trades are.
Yep. Yeah. So I think the way that we think
Like a
about
prop
it,
firm, kind of.
yeah, probably not. But I think that your original point is where a lot of people are starting to go down, honestly, Jonah. is that, and I think you're going to start to see a lot of large enterprises do this. Frankly, Anthropic has flooded the market with a lot of scare tactics. Your job's going away, and we need more compute, or like this is just going to keep getting more expensive. What's happening in the background, especially in Silicon Valley today, is that a lot of really great teams that I know personally, and I won't name names, but a lot of really great teams are realizing they can basically get users into an app using these sophisticated LLMs, trace the data, evaluate it, and start to build their own open source models. What you see is that you can basically get 90 to 95% of the same, quality that you would get from these state-of-the-art LLMs, but you can pay a tenth of the cost. And I'm very bullish actually on open source LLM models, specifically American ones. I think the Chinese have done a pretty good job. I mean, if you go use Kimi or you go use DeepSeek or any of these, like they're pretty damn good. And guess what? They're a tenth of the cost. I think what you're going to see for companies like us in the future is that they're going to get a bunch of users. They're going to utilize these state-of-the-art LLMs to get those users, get them excited, get them hooked, trace the data, understand the data, evaluate the data, and then start to build their own open source models. And you're already, by the way, like if you scour Twitter, you will find really large companies and really large firms that are already starting to do this. And so I think that's actually where the world is going. One of the biggest mistakes that I think that Anthropic and OpenAI have done is that they haven't built businesses for SMBs and mid-market. They've built an enterprise-only business. And, obviously Google and Facebook are different paradigms, different style businesses. But one of the things that makes Google and Facebook so strong from a revenue perspective is that more than half of their revenue comes from SMBs and mid markets. And I think that you're starting to see this, right? Like when you see the Uber CTO go, "Oh man, like we're actually burning too many tokens." And this is actually, I think there was a report that came out yesterday that says it actually costs more to run LLMs than it is to replace employees. And so I actually think that, harnesses like us that are built on top of these LLMs are going to start realizing this. And so we're going to see, I would say by the end of summer, Jonah, you will see 3 or 4 major companies that will announce they've trained their own model and it's a tenth of the cost and they don't need these state of the art LLMs. I wouldn't be shocked if you start to see that as we get closer with these S1s, that a lot of these revenue growth it's still going to be astronomical. These are still going to be $1 trillion plus companies, but they're going to start to see that they're losing business to people that are able to get 90% of the same quality and a tenth of the cost. If you look at Silicon Valley over the last 2 weeks, if you look at the fundraising announcements, it's all about open source models. It's all about
How does that
info.
work, by the way? How do you invest in open source? Like, how do you make money from that?
I mean, open source software is, there's a lot of statistics around open source software being more profitable than closed source software. I'm not as familiar, so it'd be interesting to understand how these companies are going to make money. But I know that there's a large appetite, and you're starting to see a lot of I think Theory Ventures was a really great
Mhm.
VC firm. They just announced a $65 million raise for a open source model today. There's like Prime Intellect, which is helping migrate a bunch of folks on a cheaper agents that just raised $130 million yesterday. So I think that there's a lot, you're going to see this a lot of inference companies that help you decrease your costs through the LLMs, a lot of open source model companies that are actually working with large enterprises and haven't really started to tell people yet.
How do you think about getting users? Because you have a unique sale where it's not like autopilot where it's sort of free
Yep.
to use and then it's like advertising revenue. You're going
Yep.
straight for boutique where it's $100 a month. You have to already be pretty down the funnel, right? It's not a top of funnel business. It's a mid to like bottom funnel business.
Yep.
How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think one thing that we're doing that's atypical to a lot of crypto or crypto adjacent companies is we're gonna scale and build with folks. So we've been forward deployed engineers with the 10 folks like you that have been in the app, and we're taking feedback and scaling from there. One, we're gonna be very focused on a specific type of trader. We're gonna be focused on sophisticated traders. I think a lot of folks are going after retail traders and they're using messaging like you're just going to make money in the background. We don't think that that's the right approach to start. And so we're going to be very hyper focused on a specific type of folks. Second of all, we need to go and test different channels, right? So there's obviously short form video, which we've talked about, creators and all of that. But we're also going to focus on SEO. A lot of folks are not doing a lot of SEO. There's a lot of great organic traffic. We're gonna be running at paid ads on things like Reddit, which we're already on live on. And we're gonna figure out the channels that drive a lot of these folks and do a lot of hand-to-hand combat. And it's gonna be a step increase. And once we feel like the product is in a really great spot, then we'll start to expand ICPs, then we'll start to expand channels and be really aggressive. But the launch video on Twitter, hyping it up on Twitter,
Hmm.
using the same influencers, that shit doesn't work, which is why crypto has no big apps with no real retained users. And so we're going to take this approach of let's build a product the Silicon Valley way and then acquire users and put gas on the fire on places that we think have really good LTV. We want to understand CAC, we want to understand retention. These are things that people, and this is one of the things that I was always frustrated with me with crypto is like nobody talks about day one, day seven, day 30 retention. Nobody talks about LTV and CAC. It's just farming bullshit products that don't even
Yeah.
work. So we're gonna make sure that the product feels really good. We're gonna do a lot of forward deployed hand-to-hand combat with really great traders. We're gonna take feedback and we're gonna help them help us build the right product. And once we feel like the product is in a great space, we'll start to increase the addressable audience and grow from there. This like I'm gonna spend a shit ton of money on creators. I mean, we've talked to a bunch of folks already that have these communities and these creator partnerships. And the same 4 or 5 big names in crypto are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yeah, they're all over your Twitter feed. But if you actually go into a sensor tower, which is a really great tool for apps to see how many downloads a lot of these apps have, like there's 100,000 downloads. If your day's 30 retention's 10%, that means you really only have a few thousand people in your app. That's not a really big business. That's just a hype business that helps you raise a lot of money. So we really want to get the product in a good spot, focus on our ICP, and then we know where to throw fuel on the fire.
If you could pick one channel today that you feel is outperforming your expectations, what channel would that be?
I don't think we have enough information because we haven't really been talking about the product or showing people the product the right way. It's just been a lot of testing. I would say the one that I'm most excited about is Reddit ads. I think that there's a lot of really great trader communities in there, and there's really great CPCs, CPMs to get in front of those folks internationally. And if you look at the trajectory of Reddit ads over the last 3 to 4 months, they're doing really, really well.
Mhm.
And I think this is where a lot of crypto folks don't have the right growth people internally or don't actually know how to grow products. But you know, the last big consumer product that got massive was TikTok. You know how TikTok got all their users, Jonah?
I actually do not. I know it was Musically, but I don't know how they got it. Was it Reddit?
They spent $4 billion acquiring users on Facebook. That's a
Oh, on
very,
Facebook. Okay.
that's a very, very unknown thing. That stuff works. And I'm not saying that we're going to use those paid ads because I don't know if that makes sense for us.
Mhm.
But those are areas, SEO, like we've grown our SEO over the last 3 months, 50% month over
You
month.
know
We need
what's
to
so
get,
funny? I want to ask you this because you're an ads expert. I was
yeah.
talking to the Fable AI about doing this for live frame, and I had never thought about this. They're like, well, if you want AI agents necessarily to eventually look at this, actually you need to do Bing. And I was like, what the fuck? Why Bing? And
Because
apparently it
open
yeah, but apparently OpenAI for a search query. But the other thing was apparently because it's a newer search engine, it is easier for the agent to like understand and search through. And so
Yep.
it doesn't, it's not a matter of speaking human at all. Cause like if a human looked at it, it would not know the difference between Bing or just regular Google or DuckDuckGo. But the back end, the agent reads it like a hieroglyph and it understands the language. So
Yep.
like I
We've been
our
yeah, we've been optimizing for Bing since we started the SEO stuff.
yeah.
People don't realize that if you rank high on Bing, you'll actually rank pretty high for like OpenAI queries because there's a direct correlation there.
Yeah, I had no idea. And then the other way, I mean, we think about it, and this is where I like one thing I could see you guys doing is um doing paid search, but I call it like pay for funded API because there's no word for this. I don't know what the word you could have, but I'll give you an example. We spoke to this record label this week. I won't say the name, right? All that stuff. And they have
Yep.
their own AI platform for like music rights and distribution. Okay. But with organic UGC and the clipping that we do, they need creators to make content on top of that music to distribute across TikTok, because the method
Yep.
is if you get enough search on TikTok, then you basically manipulate the Spotify plays. And if you manipulate the Spotify plays, you become a top searched record on Spotify. So it's this Rube Goldberg machine of distribution. And they were like, well, we could just pay you, like we have these guys, they have a $500,000 budget, but what if you plugged into our API? And so I'm like, oh yeah, that makes I'll take that over the money up front all day, especially if you're doing venture scale. Because if I'm in their API as a select terminal for agents to hire creators, and then those agents refer other agents, and then let's say I get on the base MCP, now you have a whole other layer of agentic search for like,
Yep.
because any growth person will go on ChatGPT or Claude and they'll say, what are the top 5 platforms for hiring creators, right? And they'll
Exactly.
say it
Yep.
in English semantic, and the agent will just look through like the Bing queries, the amount of API hook-ins that the app has, all these like little qualifications. And it's like a very nerdy part of my job that I really enjoy because it feels like I'm cheating. It's like playing a video game and you're doing like the like you're trying to hit the best personal best time. You're speed
Yeah.
running.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of really interesting growth things that we can do. And listen, like we're also gonna like copy some of these folks that are doing really well. Like the FOMO guys are doing interesting
Hmm.
stuff. You also want to shortcut by taking advantage of what some of the people that are doing well and try to replicate some of those wins. And this is where I struggle with a lot of the creator stuff. When you talk to a lot of the creators, and you know this space way better than I do. Nobody's ever talking it's like views,
Hmm.
views is top of funnel, like, how many users what was your cost of acquisition? How many users did you drive? What was their day 1, day 20, day 30? What's their LTV payback window? How many monthly
But you
actives?
know the answer to this though is that like UTM links on like TikTok or Instagram Reels rarely work. I mean, like the conversion is next to nothing.
Rarely work, right? And so these are vanity metrics, and that's actually what I've really struggled with a lot of the crypto projects, and frankly, now you're seeing with AI projects too. They just think that like spamming
No,
Twitter
they're doing the
is
same shit, and I
yeah,
realized why. I thought about this over the week because you and I discussed about the idea of like, oh, let's get 1,000 creators to like blast a video. Like you get
yeah.
search on X, but I think the reason they do it on X is not because they're looking for users. Because I've talked to some of these and like,
They want
okay, yeah, you spend like 500,000 on this video ad and maybe you make $30,000, right? Max 30, $50,000. It's just exactly as you were going to say. It's I call it the Series A marketing. It's not actual product marketing. It's Series A marketing, where right now it's so hard to raise a Series A. It's easy to raise a seed and a pre-seed. It's actually easy to raise a Series B or C. Really fucking hard to raise a Series A because you're in no man's land. And like
which is
Series
always
A, where most companies die.
which was always been the case. Yeah, man, and we can do a whole another podcast how I think VCs are morons, but yeah, I mean, like the way that I describe it to my team here is that VCs for the most part are ambulance chasers. You just got to make sure you have the biggest injury possible. And like that's the best way to describe it. But
You can work at
um,
Morgan and Morgan if this doesn't work
yeah,
out. You
exactly,
do great
exactly,
there.
exactly. Exactly. Cool, man. Really appreciate the time. It was a lot of fun, man. Really, you guys are building something really great. That's something that we're going to utilize and excited to continue to grow with you. And also just like you're a good dude and really appreciate your friendship, honestly.
Well, the feeling's mutual, and I did not forget. You were when you worked at this other company. I won't say the name. You gave me one of the first big contracts I had from before I was working on a fund. But when I started the agency, what was it like 4 years ago at least?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly.
You gave me the first big contract I ever had in this space. I did not forget that. So
Nah, man, like relationships are the most important thing, and when you have really great people, you try to keep those people around you, and so that's kind of been my strategy, and it's worked really well, and I hope to continue that with everybody and people like you.
absolutely, it's gonna happen. So I'm gonna continue on the live stream where I talk about bullshit. So I'm gonna let you go, but I'll hit you up
Brother,
later today. And thanks for coming.
later, brother, appreciate it.